feels weird. Like, if you're going to be getting to know people in this villa and I'm sitting there, like, red, that's just crazy to me.
Nothing's going to change between me and you.
No, I know that, but...
Well, there we go, then. So what's the thing here?
I really wish people gave Lucinda the credit she deserves, because at the end of the day, she is able to play this game masterfully. People are sort of bamboozled by the fact that she plays ditzy and dumb, and she is not that. She pretends to be naive, but she's not. Lucinda knows exactly what she's doing from the moment she walked into the villa. Every villa she walks into, her gameplay is the same. If you follow her pattern, this is who she is, and this is what she does. And because a lot of people have called her out, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets to the end with Sean, just to prove a point. And it's, for me, I didn't understand why Kira was able to sort of speak up and say, this is what happened on the day that Sean is talking about. How did production allow her to say that? It doesn't make sense to me, and I'm still pleasantly confused. And then, for me, Sher is the Temu version of Lucinda. I'm going to repeat. Sher is the Temu version of Lucinda, in the sense that the games she's trying to play, sadly, she has no one to play them with. Because if she's hoping for a reaction similar to Belle, Leanne is not the one or the two to play with. She's not going to give her that reaction at all. And so the fact that she pulled Scott, knowing Scott is not fully open, Scott is telling people what they want to hear, but he's not open. So the idea that she pulled him, hoping to sort of steal him away from Leanne, doesn't make sense. Sean, the favorite guy tag is going to his head. It really is going to his head. The audacity and the idea that he thinks he can sort of speak to Scott anyhow. I am here, Scott Defense League. We are not going to put up with this nonsense. Hopefully people humble him, and Lucinda humbles him. If he thinks Matilda treated him badly, wait until Lucinda's finished with him. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars, Season 3, episode... we're on episode 18, sorry. Anyway, so we have the islanders milling around the villa. You have Lucinda busy moaning to anyone with ears to hear that she's unhappy that Belle is sort of treating her terribly. She doesn't want to talk to her. She's making her feel bad, and she doesn't know what she's done because she's really tried to speak to Belle. Belle, on the other hand, is in the changing room, and she's telling, Leanne that I'm not going to give Lucinda the time of day so that she can set the narrative of whatever game she's trying to play. I am going to speak to Lucinda on my terms. I'm not going to give her the power to sort of take control of this thing. And it's like, girl, if that works for you, amazing. You then have them come out of the changing room. So you have Belle and Leanne come out of the changing room. On their way out, Sher runs and pulls Scott to the terrace for a chat. And you have everyone on the sun deck sort of notice that there are people on the terrace. And then Leanne gets there and they're told that, Scott and Sher are on the terrace. I personally didn't like it. I really didn't. It left a bad taste in my mouth because I thought Sher was being messy. Why would you do that? Why not speak to Leanne first before you go and speak to Scott? Scott has already told people that you need to speak to Leanne before you come and speak to me. For them to go for the chat, she was questioning, are you still open? Scott said, yes, I am open. At the moment, I don't have anything. I am open, but that's not to say my connection with Leanne is not strong. That's the strongest connection I have at the moment. If I can't find anything stronger than that, then I'm going to shut it down with Leanne. And it's like, Scott is more or less telling you, girl, that you're wasting your time. You look at Millie. Millie realized that, Scott wasn't the one with the two to play with. He is serious about Leanne. So the idea that you thought you could come and break them up, hey, good for you. And so for Sher to say, oh, I like the fact that you stand on business and you always tell the truth. She was trying to sort of suck up to him, and he could see through that. The problem people have with Scott is 10 steps ahead. And so whatever games the girls are trying to play, he already knows what they're about to do and how they're about to do it. So he's able to sort of shut it down before it gets any further. And so I love the distance that he put between him and Sher, and the fact that, he sort of made it known that Leanne at the moment is his priority. When they came out, I think Sher must have been told, you need to go and speak to Leanne, because the first thing she did was she went and she pulled Leanne for a chat. And it's like, oh, she's been told you need to go and sit down with Leanne and explain what's happened. Leanne wasn't happy about the terrace, so as soon as they sat down, she asked, whose idea was it to go to the terrace? And she said, no, I pulled him for a chat and I took him to the terrace. And it's like, oh, Scott is about to be in trouble. He really is. You then had Tommy have a conversation with Curtis, sort of saying to him he wants to break things off with Kyra because he doesn't think there's anything there and he doesn't want to lead her on. And it's like, he wants the drama, he wants to be a part of the action. And so he knows that Kyra is probably moving on to someone like Curtis, and I think this is why he wanted to be ahead of it and sort of say, no, I'm the one who shut it down. And then we had the Royal Rumble, because you then had Belle pull Lucinda for a chat, and everybody sat down and was sort of staring it down because they wanted to know exactly what was going on. Lucinda apologized and said, I'm so sorry about how you feel. I agree with Belle. Lucinda doesn't care. Lucinda's number one customer is Lucinda. So whatever else she says out of her mouth, as long as it sort of aligns with what makes Lucinda happy, then that's what she's going to ask for. Do I think Belle should continue to be having beef with Lucinda? No, I don't think so. I think Belle should have focused on other connections, because now she's losing out because everybody's being taken, and so she's going to end up in a friendship couple and be dumped, instead of her sort of trying to align herself with Carrington or somebody else. I don't know why Belle feels the need to continue to sort of hang on to Sean. Sean is not the prize, so I don't get it. Anyway, Lucinda then went and spoke to Sean and was complaining to Sean that, she feels some type of way because, Belle is making her feel bad. She's talking badly about her. And it's like, you're not the victim. You really are not the victim. So the idea and the audacity to try and make yourself the victim, I do not get. This, at the end of the day, is, a sin of your making. So you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. You then had Kira go with Curtis to the terrace for a chat. And you had the likes of Millie saying, the Curtis will be happy. Kira was saying, Kira is very intense. And it's like, that's not your business, Kieran. You've got your girl, stick to your girl, allow them to have a chat and see if there's anything there. Yeah, they moved too fast, in my opinion. Unless they had a connection that we didn't see. Because the 1 minute they were talking, the next minute they were making out. Curtis was very happy. They seemed giddy and happy. So I love that for them. If they're happy, we love it. The islanders got ready for the night, and then after they got ready, you then had Sher sit down for a chat with Jack, and suddenly Jack appears. I don't know whether he had gone home for a home visit or something. Anyway, they sit down for a chat, and you have Sher tell Jack that, I just want you to know that I did have a chat with Scott because I'm not closed off. I think it's important that I explore connections and just make sure. This is what I don't get. Every time Sher sees someone in a couple, she wants the partner. You had Jack exploring with Imani, and suddenly she was there, and now she's going after Scott, and it's like, girl, find your own guy that doesn't have a partner. You have Jack, stick to that. Unless somebody else comes in, stick to that. And then Scott and Leanne. Scott for me is smitten, if not in love with Leanne. Scott really likes Leanne. And the thing for him is he doesn't know how Leanne feels about him, because Leanne is very nonchalant. She won't sort of show any sort of emotion. And I think this is why maybe he went for the chat, because he wanted to see if Leanne would be riled up. And you could see that she wasn't happy about that at all. She wasn't happy. She was upset, but she was trying not to show it that she's upset with it, because she kept saying, now you've put me in a triangle. I normally wouldn't go in a triangle. And Scott is saying, you're not in a triangle. You're not in a triangle. And it's like, but she is technically, because you're exploring with Sher. If you were not exploring with Sher, she wouldn't be in a triangle. I love that Leanne was able to say, you reassure me every single time and I know where we are, but this situation, I don't like it. Scott then tried to put it on her and say, do you want me to not to talk to her? Do you want us to close off? I think he wants Leanne to appear to want him. This is what he wants. He wants to see that Leanne wants him, and the idea that he's not sure is something that he's not used to, and this is why he's sort of frailing everywhere. The Carrington and Helena situation is something that came out of left field. I really didn't expect it, because they went to the fire pit, they were having a conversation, and you had, Helena sort of suggesting that they go to the hideaway for the night. And it's like, is someone having to spend the night in the hideaway because you don't have enough beds, because it's so windy outside, and I think they can't have people sleeping outside. This is why they are sort of making sure one couple goes to the hideaway. And so it was just like, hideaway, Helen. Get to know someone. We didn't think your connection was that strong enough for you two to be going to the hideaway. And then finally, Connor has found the person for him. I think Imani is it for him. I sort of side-eyed him when he said, I like how calm your voice is. It sort of looked like he was taking a dig at Whitney, but I assume they're still friends with Whitney. The kiss that they shared, I think Imani as well really likes him. I can see them being a couple. I really can. And so I hope they continue to explore it, because Imani has finally found a person. Connor has finally found a person. I hope they're staying that couple and they are just kept in the villa till the end as background actors if need be. But at least we can get to see that sort of connection grow and flourish. The islanders then gathered around the fire pit for spin the bottle. And for me, this is where the mess began. Because what happened is you'd spin the bottle, you'd either do a truth or a dare, and then you'd perform whatever the bottle or the card on the message was. First up was Helena. She chose a dare, and the question was, other than your partner, Snog the islander you think is the best kisser. She kissed Carrington. Is anyone surprised? No, because at the end of the day, she's been exploring with Carrington, so it makes sense. Yemen chose a dare. He was told to give a lap dance to the islander that knows all the right moves. He chose Whitney. Surprise, no, because he's exploring with Whitney. Belle was asked the truth, which islander is putting in bare minimum, and she said, in my couple, it's Sean. And it's like, oh, side eye. Curtis was name one thing your partner has done that has given you the ick. He chose the truth, and he went, she got with somebody else. The fact that Millie is now in a couple with Zach. And then you had Millie, name the islander you think cares the most and about unnecessary drama. She chose Scott. She, I think, copped out. She should have chosen Lucinda, or she should have chosen Sean. They are the ones that are after unnecessary drama. Scott didn't like that. He really didn't like it. He wasn't impressed by it, and so he had his opinion heard. Tommy was named an islander you think is waiting for someone better to walk into the villa. He chose Lucinda because he said at the end of the day, Lucinda, when she came in, she spoke to 4 guys, and then she went with Kieran. When it didn't work out, she went with me, and then suddenly she's now with Sean. So she's waiting for someone better, and she's going to dump Sean. And it's like, oh, God. And then for Scott, it was perform a sex position with an islander you think deserves better. He went for Belle, and he said, given the Sean situation. Sean chose a dare. His was line up the 3 islanders you find the most attractive in order of preference. He chose Lucinda and Belle. And then you had Imani sort of try and tell him that this is not good, and he decided to choose Imani. So he kissed Lucinda first, and from kissing Lucinda, he went to kiss Belle. I agree with Tommy. I don't understand why Belle sort of reciprocated that kiss. She could have easily told him, kiss my cheek and keep it stepping. Because you now have people like Kieran saying, it's giving, I want you back, it's giving this. Lucinda wasn't happy about the kiss because it seemed very passionate. And it's like, they're giving Sean what he wants. They're making him the man when he's not. Scott was next. He went truth, and then it said, point to the islander you think could be playing a game, and he chose Lucinda. Lucinda was upset. She didn't like that. She felt like, Scott was targeting her. And it's like, he's not targeting you. He's just telling me his truth, and that's his truth. And so the idea and the audacity for you to be upset about it, I didn't get it, because you then had, him, sort of Scott, trying to mouth something to Lucinda during... and Lucinda became upset. The idea that you had Sean sort of intervene and sort of interrupt Kira didn't make sense, because Kira had picked up a dare that said line up 3 islanders who would make a your perfect partner, face, body, and personality. And so the fact that you had Sean sort of have this back and forth and try and be the man and try and check Scott, I didn't like it. You could see he knew he was agitating Scott, and he kept doing it. And Scott was getting too agitated that it took everyone to hold him down. He had Belle, Leanne, and even Whitney saying to him, Scott, you need to stop, because they could all tell that Sean was doing it for their attention. He really likes the idea that he can play victim to Scott, sort of reciprocating whatever energy is giving. So immediately the game had to be broken up because it was becoming too tense, and you had Sean and Lucinda walk away from everybody else. You had Scott be sort of pacified by Leanne, Belle, and even Tommy. And they were saying to him, you need to ignore these 2 people because they're doing it for the attention. That's it. It's not like there is a strong connection there or anything. They are a fake couple, but they're just doing it for the attention, and they like the fact that they are winding people up. Scott decided that, he had had enough, and that was it. And so to have Lucinda and Sean go to the terrace and think they're the couple, and have Sean say, I had to stand up for you, I had to fight for you, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to let people talk down to you. And it's like, you're going to cry. There are a lot of guys that are crying in Lucinda's wake. So the idea that you think you are the man doesn't make sense. You then had Scott and Leanne sitting by the fire pit, and Leanne was saying, "I'm still, I am here to support you as my partner, but I'm still annoyed with you and this Sher situation." Scott was loving it. He's loving the fact that he is getting under Leanne's skin, and she's getting agitated about the whole thing. So I love it for him. Hopefully, they don't end up breaking up. Curtis is in paradise because he sat on the day bed while he sat on the sun deck with Kira, and they kissed in front of everyone. And it's like, how strong is their connection? How long have they been chatting? Because they went from 0 to 100, and I'm not quite getting it. Is he doing it to rub it in Millie's face, or is he doing it because he really likes this girl? He seemed to like her, so good for them. You then had Scott sit down for a conversation with Lucinda, and Scott was saying to her, "It's nothing personal, I'm not targeting you. It's just my beef is with Sean, because at the end of the day, I don't trust Sean. He is going to play you. He has used Belle countless times, and if you are not clever, he's going to play you." And it's like, people undermine Lucinda. Lucinda is smarter than they think. Lucinda is playing a bigger game than everybody else thinks, and sadly for them, they can't notice that. And by the time they wake up and see what Lucinda's up to, she will have won the prize. You had Tommy sit down for a chat with Sean, and he was trying to explain himself and why he had picked Lucinda in the game and why he felt so agitated and upset and how he was worried about Sean. And it's like, buddy, Sean is not the one or the two. Sean and Lucinda deserve each other. They're just as bad as one another. They don't mind who they run over as long as they're doing great. So to have Tommy say, "Oh, you left a lot of things," it's like, Tommy, you are worrying more about Sean than Sean is worried about himself. Sean is after clout, and so whatever press he can get, he will run with it once he leaves the villa, and you need to wake up to that. Lucinda having a conversation with Millie and then playing herself as the victim is ludicrous. And I love that Helena was just looking at her and just thinking, "Oh my God," and scene. Because you could tell that this was Lucinda trying to play on somebody else's sympathy, trying to play the victim. And the fact that Millie keeps putting up with it and keeps trying to support Lucinda doesn't make sense. Anyway, all the islanders went and got ready for the night. Everybody found out that Helena was going to go to the hideaway with Carrington. And it's like, I don't get it, because Helena spoke to Belle before she went, and Belle said, "No, I don't care. You and I are never going to fall out over a guy." And it's like, hideaway, Helena is back. And she doesn't seem to have learned her lessons from her season. She's just picking up from where she left last season, which doesn't make sense. You expect someone to self-reflect and have personal growth. So the idea that she hasn't done that doesn't make sense to me. I can't wait to see what happens. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 17. Bye guys.